Hello there, my name is Lewis and you're watching Reddit Gets Drawn episode 4. Today we've got a picture that's a bit less like a portrait, but it really caught my eye. I want to try and do this quite graphically, maybe even with line art and actually a lot of simplification, just to get this a bit more like an illustration. I really like the colours in it, I like that it's more zoomed out. Normally we do portraits in this series, but this one's more of a whole picture. It's got a whole person in. I also really liked the colours, like the red dress, with the blue background and the green trees right in the middle. I really see a lot of potential in this image for simplification and stylisation. So let's get right into it. I'm already struggling quite a bit to size up all the measurements in this one. I'm not normally used to doing big environments like this, but I'm giving it my best go. Just trying to break down every little thing into shapes so that I can better understand it. It's a lot harder than you'd think to kind of get the scale correct in pictures like these. So especially when you're trying to change the aspect ratio, which I like to paint in a square, as people have probably noticed. So squeezing such a tall picture down into a square is going to be quite difficult, and it's going to take some imagination to stretch the sides out to fill out the space that they should. So currently I'm just working through it and trying to get all of the shapes proportionally correct, which is another area where digital is very forgiving. If I was doing this on paper, I wouldn't have been able to shrink it so many times, because you can't just, shrink the image when you're drawing it on paper. So, it's taken us a while, but I feel like I've gotten a good approximation, and I feel that it's mostly in proportion. So we're going to carry on to add just a few more details and then maybe jump straight in with getting some final strokes in, and then maybe even getting the colour in. It was quite difficult because often to get a good proportion, you need to sort of have everything in your scene be present. So you've got to have every element in the scene actually drawn in, and then you can compare the scale of each thing. You can do that, or you can start with one thing that you know the scale of and slowly branch out, which is the more structured way to do it, but I'm not very well structured. So it was just really a case of getting all of the elements in there and then comparing them to get the sizes, as well as just trying to read the basic shapes that were in the image, like this floor plane here. This is a very strong shape over here that's very present in the image, and also very three-dimensional, but can be very easily converted into a 2D shape, if that makes much sense. So that's what I mean by kind of reading the shapes, is kind of trying to look at the 3D shapes in 2D, like those flat planes, and using them to kind of figure out what kind of scale you need for the image. So at this point I feel like we've gotten most of the proportions in, and I've got the image how I like it. Now what I'm going to want to do is start to actually get the final line work in, and then I think I'm going to add the colour in and get some of the shading in and make it as simplified as possible. So getting up to this point was quite difficult, but we finally got there, and we've got it in the square aspect ratio. So let's change the translucency of this to be slightly lower. New layer, and we're going to start drawing our more focused line work over it. So now that we've got our line work done, what I've done is I've made the layer more translucent, or is it transparent? Either way, I've made it less visible, and now we're going to start to put in the actual colour over top, which I want to do very graphically in big bold shapes. We're just going to get the colours in simply and get the composition figured out, and then start to work in the lights and the shadows. I think I might simplify the woman in the foreground a bit more, and then have the background with the trees and such a bit more painterly and loose, to kind of add that contrast between the foreground and the background. So just trying to simplify this down, I'm not sure what my exact techniques or method are going to be, other than just trying to get it down to the most simple basic shapes. But it's a good thing that I've got quite a good variety in this picture, because I can try out a couple different things to simplify in different ways. So at this point we're just trying to figure out what our composition might look like. So I'm getting some more values in and getting a lot of the texture in, just to kind of get it in, zoom out, see how it looks, and then zoom back in, and that way we can get a more clear picture of what our composition might look like, and what we like and what we don't like, what we want to change, take out, add in, and just really quickly prototype our image without needing any kind of preliminaries. I'm really kind of enjoying just working in this quite simplified way, just to find the overall composition that we like first. It's not often that I really try to simplify something as much as possible to almost cartoonise it, but I'm really going to try and keep a stylised mindset when painting this, and really get it as simplified and as sleek as possible. Okay then, so we've got some of the texture in. I'm really liking the look of the composition. We've got our simple flat shapes in, and a lot of our values and colours that we're going to be using. I think moving forwards, we're going to get the detail in, more richer in the background. We're going to get the nice flat solid shapes in the foreground, and get the woman in focus, fully fleshed out. And really get it so everything's recognisable, and move away from the kind of blobs and big shapes that we worked on building today, and really just get the thing finalised and looking nice and sharp. So I hope that everyone's enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.